Loss can be an incredibly destructive thing, but it can also make one reflective and transformative. And even when you feel like you're ready for it, nothing can quite prepare you for the gaping void that death leaves behind in your life. And for some people, it's the little things. At least it was for me. My grandma, Baba Betty, passed away in late September of 2019. We were expecting it. She was in her early 90s and her health had hit a sudden decline after her 92nd birthday. But nothing had prepared me for how quickly it all happened. She died a week after being admitted to hospital with a minor stroke. And even as I shook the earth from the shovel in my hands and heard the sickening thud of it hitting her coffin, I was barely even able to register that it was her in there. No, as I held my sister's hand on that cold September morning, I found myself unable to speak, for all I was able to do was cry. I can only describe the days that I followed her passing as weird. Everything was a haze, empty and confusing. I'm Jewish, and the traditions around our funerals are very formal. Everything must be done within the first 48 hours. And after those 4 days, her passing, my mum's birthday, her funeral, and the shiver, came the deafening, all-consuming silence. Baba Betty liked to call every day, at least once a day. And in the last year, I tended to be the one who picked up the phone. These conversations would be relatively the same. She would ask about me, ask about my day, ask about my brother and my sisters and my mum. She'd talk a bit about herself and what she found at Morrison's that day. And then she would tell me that she loved me and that she loved all of us with all of her heart. And even now, it's still weird to me when the phone doesn't ring like clockwork at 7:30 every night. There's not much I can really say about Baba Betty. She never liked to talk about herself. The one thing that I do remember, though, is that she loved her family with everything that she had. No matter what we were going through, she was always there to support us. And no matter what we did, she was always proud of us. She called me every day of my GCSEs, just after my exams, just to make sure that I was all right. Calling was all she could do after the first time she got sick, but the fact that she'd made the effort is what mattered. I didn't appreciate that until she was gone. But Baba Betty knew just how important it was to let those around her know that she loved them, because she knew how fragile and fleeting life was. Baba Betty was a Holocaust refugee, and at the young age of 7 years old, she was faced with the grim reality that no matter how much you love somebody, they could be gone in the blink of an eye. And she took this grim, bleak truth, and she made it her ethos to love everybody around her for as much as she could, for as long as she could. And this still today carries on within my family. Christmas Day had been exactly 3 months since the day that she died. Baba Betty would normally spend Christmas with us. She'd sit just at the head of the table and she'd squeeze the arm of the person nearest to her, offering a small smile, just to let them know that she cared. This Christmas, however, I opened a present for my mum. It was a book on Jewish baking, and written in the front cover was a message saying that if my grandma was still here, then the book would have been from her, and that it was given to me with all of her love. And as you can imagine, I broke down crying. Passing on your love and passing on your care can build up how those around you will remember you. We remember Baba Betty as a selfless and loving individual who could dish out some of the meanest dirt on anybody who had ever considered hurting us in the sweetest possible voice. Sorry. Now that she's no longer here, I want to be a little bit more like her. I've seen in person just how little it takes to give a small gesture of care. There is a teacher that I know who will stop by every single student he sees just to say hello. And sometimes that soft brush against my arm and the whispered hello can lift my spirits on the worst of days. A fellow student taking my arm and pulling me out of a lesson when I insisted I was okay and clearly wasn't, just to make sure that I got the help that I needed from a member of staff, got me out of my head and back on track to where I needed to be. I know that something like this isn't easy. And for me, it will probably be one of the hardest things in the world to push past the occasionally debilitating social anxiety, just to let someone know that I hope they're having a nice day. Letting those that you care about know how much that you love them can prevent more pain and more harm from occurring within an individual. The last thing she ever told me was that she loved me, and I brushed it off with a sheepish, I know, because I was so sure that I was going to hear it again. And I have my regrets about that, but it is also a lesson. Expressing your love, your empathy, and your care can have a positive effect on you and those around you. Be that positivity in your life. I know that I will. Thank you.